Hello, this is Walter Latham from the Walt Weekly Podcast, and welcome. Before we proceed with our podcast, I'd like to do a call to action. I need our guys to like, subscribe, and comment. Follow, we need that. We need all the voices out here now, especially with what's going on in our environment. I want to introduce our guest, Mr. Albert Smith III. Albert is the fourth of four interviews, the last one, that we're doing with a group of gentlemen that benefited from the Hotchkiss GO Program. GO meaning greater opportunity, where they went into these neighborhoods, underprivileged neighborhoods, and selected people based on their merit to attend this prestigious school during the summertime and prep them for further education in some of the biggest schools in the country, such as Harvard and Princeton, etc. But we are here, and we've been graced with one of the four, the last of the four, Mr. Albert Smith III, who's the architect. So let me turn it over to Albert. Albert, how are you today?
I'm good, Walt, and it's a pleasure to be on, talk with you, chat with you for a few minutes, and give you my little bit of insight about the great opportunity, the Hotchkiss School, and what it all meant to me and helping me to shape up my life and move on into it. As these guys before me probably told you, we started in 1965. And a little background on myself, I am the third of six children. I had two older brothers, two younger brothers, and a younger sister. And my mother and father moved up to New York from Florida in 1955. So I'm living in the Bronx since 1955. I'm a Bronxite.
Wow.
Purpose.
Okay.
I've quite a few changes in the city and in the South Bronx in particular. Which is important for me because I've been here and been a productive member of the Bronx and of the Harlem community. Back to 1965, I was attending the Alexander Berger Junior High School in the South Bronx, and a gentleman named Father Kern came in one day and introduced himself to me and a few other folks and presented the opportunity to go away to this summer program, get some benefits from structured learning environment, etc. and so forth. So I gladly said, yes, I'd like to go to that program, but I need to go home, get my mother and father's permission and things of that sort. So that's what I did, Walt, and it was granted willingly because when you have six kids back in 1960s and all that, and you come from a rough, tough neighborhood, we lived in a tenement. And, it was six of us and two parents in a two-bedroom apartment on 103rd in the South Bronx. So my parents were sort of glad to say, yeah, you can go away for 2 months and, take some of this burden off of us for a period of time. So we went to Hotchkiss, and the Greater Opportunity Program was presented to us as a way to enhance our educations, to build up our study habits, to fortify ourselves for the future. And what made it really great was that there were 100 of us all together in the program from various places: Brooklyn, Harlem, Hartford, Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut, Newburgh, New York. Yeah. So there was a variety of guys in this particular program, and we all were equals, and that was a good thing. When you come from a rough, tough neighborhood like the South Bronx, you can sort of be identified as a good student or a bad student. And myself, I was one of the good students, and I felt that I was as equal as anybody in that group of guys who came to that program.
All right, so you had back then when I was growing up during the 60s. That was it. Education was it. That was our path forward. I don't think that today that emphasis is not as great as it was back then. That's something that I want to get into later with you as we proceed with the conversation. But first off, Father Kearns, how did he approach you? Talk to me about how that approach was, and Instead of
Well,
going
basically,
directly to the parents, he went directly to you through the school officials. How did he locate you?
yes, he came to the school, and I think he presented the whole project to the principal. And then they gave him permission to come and talk to certain students that he selected. And I went to our records. I don't know that for sure, but he certainly came to us individually and said, "Hey, this is a great opportunity. I would like for you guys to consider this. And, it's going to be a great thing. It's for 2 months in the summer, all summer, but it's for 3 summers in a row." Okay. So that made it clear that we had to make a commitment if we wanted to be in this program. And I was glad to make that commitment. Father Kern was open and transparent about everything. And he said it would be a challenge to some of us, and talking to me at that time. And he said to some of us, he meant to everybody who he was selecting for this particular program. And it turned out to be that. But it was a nice meeting with a gentleman who was a cleric. He had on
Yes.
his cleric.
Yes.
Yeah. And he didn't push too hard. He gave you just enough to want to get involved. And that was.
Yeah, I understand. Father Kern's still alive, too. He's in his 90s, I guess. Y'all guys still go to visit him, or do you reach out?
He's alive. Some of the guys still go. One guy in particular named Evans is very, very close to Father Kern. He goes up to see him. He's up in the Cape someplace.
Okay.
I met Father Kern maybe 20 years ago. He came to a function in the city that one of our brothers, Dr. Woodbine, who you spoke with
Yes,
already.
he's on the second show.
They honored me for a variety of reasons, but Father Kern came and made a little speech about me and how he felt about who I was relative to the GO program.
Okay, before we proceed with talking about the celebration that's coming up in June, I believe y'all guys having a celebration looking back at that time, celebrating the experiences that you had and the opportunity that you gained from going to Hotchkiss. But before we proceed there, I just want to understand how did you, when you first went, and I've asked this to the three gentlemen prior to you coming on, how did you feel going there on that first day, and how did you assimilate, or you were like them, you saw, kinship with the people that were there during the summer versus the people that there during the fall? How was that?
The summer session was easy to slide into, Walt, because the school is a fabulous physical place. I mean, it was just a beautiful place, man. You have dorms, or beautiful campus, a wonderful lake, tennis courts, golf course all around the school,
Wow.
gyms, swimming pools, big playing fields the size of 2 city blocks. And that was all ours to use for the summertime, as well as the classroom, the chapel. Everything about the place was welcoming, and it was so easy to feel welcome there because we each got our own rooms, or we had a roommate, our own drawer where we could put our possessions, put us on teams. They built up this team atmosphere so everybody felt they belonged to something there other than just themselves. So we all had a team, and our teams were competitive among each other. I felt right at home at Hotchkiss because my upbringing in the South Bronx was very enjoyable. My mom and pops worked, so my brothers and I literally had our freedom to run the streets.
Yeah, you're lucky you didn't get in trouble, man.
No, we didn't get in trouble. There were opportunities to get in trouble, but I wasn't a getting in trouble type of guy. I wanted to do the right thing. I wanted to keep my mother and father proud of me. But we had our time. We adventured all over the city. At 10 years old, I could take a subway and go to Jersey City by myself.
Oh, yeah, back in the day. Yes.
Travel all over the city. And, we just experimented and had great time coming up in the city. Again, I was from the South, and New York was a big playground to me from day one. It's still like that to me, but coming up through the 60s, the 70s in the South Bronx was also a big challenge because there was a lot of bad things going on, gangs, drugs, all those bad things. And I was able to avoid most of that and make it out of there in one piece, so to speak. But Hotchkiss played a role in that because once I was into the program and really placed into academic group, aside from our teams, we were placed in academic groups, and I was placed in one of the higher academic groups. It became even more competitive. And I was a very confident guy, very competitive in all kind of ways. And so that program propagated that in me. It brought that out of me even more. I got to compete. I want to be as good and better than most of these guys.
And you have that competitive spirit. I'm the same way. I am the same way. That my kids are the same way. If I can't win, I don't want to play. Everything is a competition.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I've had children. I have 3 daughters, basically of the same mindset. They're very competitive and they're beautiful people. I'm very proud of my daughters.
All right. Looking back at it, what do you think? How did you benefit? I know that Hotchkiss, their goal or their objective was to put your guys in a place where you could pursue higher education at some of the best schools in the country. All right.
Correct.
So, for instance, I see that you attended Princeton. You attended Wesleyan.
I went to Wesleyan.
Wesleyan. Yes. I always have a problem with that name. But those are big schools, man. So they smoked the way for you, or is it they had a pipeline into those schools? How did that work?
No, well, for me, it was unique kind of because I was accepted into the Hotchkiss School for my senior year.
Wow.
As a student.
As a full-time student.
Yeah, I did my 3 years of high school at DeWitt Clinton in the Bronx, 9th, 10th, 11th grade and things. You have peer pressures growing up in that environment, especially at DeWitt Clinton. It was all male school, extremely competitive bunch of cats, but a lot of bad boys up there too. Right. So you could get off track easy enough. I think I was in trouble in the 11th grade because I was beginning to become impacted by my peers, cats who I grew up with, that didn't always want to do the right thing, that didn't want to go to school every day. And so I was trying to avoid that, but the lure of the streets, it got me a little bit. So I think Father Kern and some of the people at Hotchkiss realized we got these guys, or this guy to this point, we cannot afford to let him get off the hook. So they gave me an opportunity. They said, hey, listen, we got a spot at Hotchkiss. If you like to, you can come and be a full-time student here.
Did you do that? You did?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
I accepted.
Yeah.
Me and Dr. Woodbine. Yeah.
Oh, you both graduated. Your 12th year, your senior year. You attended Hotchkiss.
Yeah,
that's something I want to ask about. How was that in terms of how would you guys? I don't want to use the term assimilate, right? But how did y'all guys blend into that full-time environment? Because some of the richest people in the country, they're kids, and they are arrogant. I would assume
they were very arrogant. They were very elitist. They were a lot of things. Doc and I had a moment to embrace the environment and learn how to get along with them, with that situation. Beneficial thing was that about 3 or 4 of the other guys from the summer program had been accepted in the Hotchkiss full-time as freshmen.
Oh, okay.
Right? The program opened the door of the Hotchkiss School for about 10 of us all together that went to the school full-time and went to the GO program.
Describe to me the Hotchkiss School. I mean, in terms of their prestige, how they are referred to or how they are held in such esteem. Try to just briefly tell me the Hotchkiss schools as compared to other preparatory schools.
Well, Hotchkiss, back when we attended back then, it was considered like one of the 3rd best prep schools in the country. It was behind Exeter and Andover, which are big time, much larger prep schools. But there were also Kent and some other prep schools in the vicinity. But Hotchkiss was extremely highly recognized as a great school. And so for me, it had kind of prestige that if you wanted to go to the Ivy League, that would certainly help you on your application process. It was a door opener, really.
Okay.
It was a door opener.
So more of a conduit to yeah. I mean, would you think that wasn't fair or something to people that did not attend the Hotchkiss School, this privilege that That I mean, it's certainly mentioned now with the DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusion. And I don't want to
Hmm.
put equity, equality is that middle word for me or letter. All right. We were saying that, the guys, when y'all guys went full time and what you were confronted with by other students, but was that a major thing for y'all guys? Or did y'all guys all eat at the same? Don't forget, this is during the prime of the civil rights movement. This is the height of the civil rights movement.
That is correct. So we were kind of outcast for a moment because we were just brought in for our senior year. So a lot of the white fellas up there really felt that we didn't belong. We didn't deserve to get a Hotchkiss diploma like they were going to get after they've done those 4 hard years at Hotchkiss. But what they didn't realize about myself and Doc, and this is more about me, was that I felt better prepared for life and going forward than most of them, in spite of their 4 years of education at Hotchkiss School, because of the kind of upbringing that I had in the South Bronx. I lived through some major challenges. I avoided all kind of problems. I figured out how to get myself into a situation like the Hotchkiss School. But once there, I was smart enough to adapt myself to that situation and make it comfortable so that I could perform and do what I had to do. So we were on scholarship, full scholarship. But at the Hotchkiss School back then, you had to do wait service at meals. And Doc and I, we had to do 3 turns at being a waiter, 2 weeks at a time, doing wait service.
Was that applicable to all the students? I mean, did all the rest of them had to do it?
Everybody had to do
Excellent. Okay. All right.
it. They didn't have to do 3 turns, though. So we had, because we were on full scholarship.
I see. They were paying and you were, okay. Okay.
So what I did was I made it, in my mind, I made it a fun job. I don't mind waiting. This is fun. I go get all the food. Everybody's got to wait for me.
Yeah.
That they got to operate at my speed now because I'm running this show, right? I'm going to get the food. I'm setting it out on the table. The headmaster at the head of the table will distribute whatever, but he's got to ask me now to go do things. So I took it and made it into something that helped me feel comfortable being a servant.
Yeah, you impress me as one of those half full guys. You're optimistic regardless of what goes on. You try to find a positive.
That's what I did.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
So, okay, you finished Hotchkiss, all right, and then what did you go immediately into college? Did you know what your career?
I got selected into 8 colleges. Wesleyan was my college of choice.
Okay.
I'm so glad that I enrolled there because at Wesleyan, I was among a class of brothers that were just so dynamic. Well, I mean, it's
this
like
in the 60s now.
Yes, these guys were the bomb. We are one of the tightest classes that Wesleyan ever produced, especially among ourselves. There were like 55 of us in that class, the class of 73. And I think the graduating class was around 900 or something like that. We were a small minority, but we were a powerful presentation on campus. We bonded, we supported each other, we helped each other. So most of those guys who I went to school with at Wesleyan were aspiring to be doctors, lawyers, and all kind of professional things. I, at that point, had not made up my mind about what I wanted to do, but I eventually got into the art program at the school, and they started a pre-architectural program while I was there. And that's how I got into architecture.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So that's how you got there. Because, it's not many, I don't want to make a broad statement now without having some data behind me, but I would guess that we don't have many engineers within the African-American community.
Well, we don't have many Black registered architects. We are like 2% of all architects in this country, pretty much.
Wow.
And so at one point, I was like one of maybe 1,500 licensed Black architects in this country.
Now, you're in terms of architects, it's what, 2% that are?
2%. of all Black architects.
Wow. That's reflected in all those major, I mean, when I say major, I don't mean major. I would say, to me, it's like a pilot, a commercial airline pilot, we're around 2%. Doctors, we're around that number. That seems to be a constant number across many professions, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty, well, architecture is pretty tough because um, when I took my exams back in the days, it was one of the toughest exams out there because it was a 36-hour exam.
Wow.
Given over 4 days. Yeah. And it really was a challenge. It was tough. But, a lot of people have to take it 5, 6 times to get it done. I took 4, to get all of my parts completed. And it prepared me, though, for what I am doing today, which is practicing architecture. I'm just not an architect. I'm a practicing architect, hands-on guy, fully dedicated to my craft and what I do. I went to Columbia University Graduate School of Architecture, and that's where I graduated from in 1976.
Wow.
1980, working in the architectural field. And I've been working in it ever since.
Did you work with a major architectural firm or what? How did that work?
No, I was very fortunate, Walt, and I worked with a small firm, a small outfit initially, a white architect named Earl Beanstock. He hired me and let me have about a year and a half under his tutelage on some various projects. And I had been introduced to him by a gentleman named William Ince. William Ince was a Black engineer, and he was close friends with the folks up at West Harlem Group Assistance, which is a community organization that I started working for while at Columbia. So Mr. Ince stayed in touch. And when I finished my year and a half with Earl Beanstock, which was my only practical experience, Mr. Ince gave me a call and said, Al, I need you to come work with me. I'm doing some development work, and it'll be a great opportunity for you. And as it turned out, it was so true because I had to learn on the fly how to be an architect.
Sink or swim.
Yes. So he gave me a great opportunity to just be practicing architect. My first project was a 2 6-story buildings out in Brooklyn, a full gut rehab job. And I was the architect of record.
All right.
I was green, but I was the architect of record. Mr. Ince was a well-known engineer around town, highly respected in the building department. But he gave me the freedom to learn, to do it. He said, just go do it, Al. You can figure it out. And I did figure it out. I learned quite a bit. And I just stayed in the business. So since 1980, I've basically been a rehab person. One of my greatest experiences came with Mr. Ince when we were chosen, our little business was chosen to do the architectural engineering work for the conversion of the Sydenham Hospital to senior citizen housing. Yeah. And that was in 1985, 84, 85. I was the architect of record on that. I'm not record, I was the architect on the job. Mr. Ince was the engineer of record. And it was converting that hospital to 101 units of senior citizen housing. Still a beautiful building to this day.
What did your pride and joy in terms of, I would like to think, or I believe that, an architect, there's always those 1 or 2 projects that stand out in their career that they look back on with such, pleasure that they were able to contribute to it. Do you have any? You mentioned a couple of places. Are those the places? Tell me what project stands out to you as the most, that you're so awestruck or you like so much that you've done. I think I put that right.
When we converted Sydenham to senior citizen housing. Imagine this. I had to personally go into the building and do the surveys to establish what the existing conditions were in the building. Mm-hmm. I'm in that building alone, in the morgue, in the dead of winter, getting information. I felt fear in there, but the building was so fabulous and it had so many secrets that it just intrigued me. So once I designed it and had the pleasure to go through supervising the construction crew and going through the administrative piece with HUD and the New York City Building Department and the Housing Authority and all those agencies that were involved in the project, it really gave me insight as to how an architect actually has to work to make things happen. It's not just what you put on paper. It's mobilizing yourself and being able to work with other people, coordinate and get your intent across to them and make sure that their intent and their deliverables and what they're expecting is expressed as well. So that project was a great project to me. Now I've done work for a bunch of community organizations throughout the city, West Harlem Group Assistance, Housing Development Corporation, Chamber of Churches. I've done, I don't know, maybe 30 major projects with the city, multi-building projects, not just one building, but maybe 7, 8 buildings at a time.
Okay.
And they're all over Harlem and Bed-Stuy, Brownsville, the South Bronx.
Yeah, so it got to be nice to ride around and look at these buildings and say, yeah, I did that. Or I had a hand in that one. Yeah,
Yes.
That got to have a good feeling, man.
Yeah, I have a tremendous feeling. I really appreciate what I've been able to do. I have been involved in the rehab in 3 of the worst blocks in Harlem back in the days, in the 80s and 90s. I did major project on 147th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue, really notorious block. I did another one on 130th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue, which was a really notorious drug block. And then on Edgecombe between 145th and 142nd Street, when those were the most notorious blocks in the city of New York, and Harlem anyway.
Now, that during was that during the heroin epidemic or the crack epidemic or both?
Yeah, during that that epidemic and all those problematic years with the drugs, those were rough blocks. And I guess the city felt that I was the right guy to do those rehabs because they were very challenging jobs to do. The confidence that I got from going to Hotchkiss, going to Wesleyan, graduating out of Columbia, I felt I could do anything. But I had to have the street smarts to go into those blocks and deal with the people who control those blocks during that time and get permission to go in these buildings and do what I had to do and make sure that I could come out of there in one piece.
Oh, yeah. I can understand that. One thing I was taught by my mother that you got to be able to communicate with the president of the United States and the bum on the street. So as long as you can do between those two extremes, you're in good shape. Mm-hmm. And I have to assume you're the same way.
I like to think so, Walt. I'd like to think so.
All right. Okay, now I do want to turn to the benefits, and you already discussed, what you've done in terms of giving back to your community during that time as a work. That was work. Now, are you retired now, or are you still?
Oh no, I'm still practicing.
Still practicing.
Yes, sir.
Oh, all right.
I can't put down this skill set. It was too hard to get it, and there's a lot of value in it. So I'm trying to keep it moving and pass it on. I mean, working as an architect is not a labor-intensive; it's a stress-intensive career. In that regard, it's a bit much. But I'm still at it. I'm still relatively healthy, so I thank God for that.
Happy. I'm praying for you. How are you giving back to the community? But you've been doing that since you became a professional.
Correct.
So just nonstop.
I'm just nonstop. I've served in community functions when I first met my wife. I married a lady out of the Edenwald projects up in the North Bronx. Eventually, her mother, my mother-in-law, got me involved in the Edenwald Gun Hill Neighborhood Center. I became a chairman of the board for that organization. I did that for about 3-4 years. I've coached pro-am basketball teams in the North Bronx, and I've helped, I think, some of these young guys to realize their dreams, straighten their lives out, get focused, and plan and make plans and make plans happen. I've taught the people who work with me and in my office that we have to support our community. We have to buy things in our communities. We have to shop in our communities. We need to support everything that is providing the needs of our communities. These are the kinds of things that they're not big deal, but they are big deals because take it and pass it on.
I'm very proud of your accomplishments. The gentleman that graced us on the show, Ellison, Lawrence, Doc, and yourself, y'all guys have been a lesson in history to me. Yeah, y'all guys are idols for me. Based on where you came from, even though we're not that, our ages are not that bad. So, I'm 70, so at 71. So, but still, I look up to the older guys. You know how we grew up. If a guy's 2 years older than you, you looked up to him.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying. He wasn't in your age group. So, they were elders. So, I just appreciate so much what y'all guys have done. And I just for me, to be able to talk to you guys, to converse and have you on the show, on the Walt Weekly. It's just amazing that y'all guys are there. Didn't realize it. I don't want to go off topic so much, but our people need people like you and Lawrence and Dr. Woodbine and Ellison. We need people like you that can show and can contrast throughout the arc of history, where you came from and where we are now. And you can contrast then to now. You're in a better position because you witnessed so many things. And we need people like you. We really, really need people like you.
Yes. You know what? That's profound because we have lived a long life. I'm 74. I'll be 75. I've seen the Bronx, the South Bronx, change dramatically throughout my lifetime. The 3rd Avenue L was still running from Manhattan to Gun Hill Road when I first moved up there in the Bronx. All of that's gone. The piers at the East River that we used to go and jump off of into the river to learn how to swim, all of that's gone. They built a whole new city down there in the South Bronx, Mott Haven. So the changes in the world have been significant. The changes in our communities have been significant. And guys like me and Doc and Noel and Larry and yourself, we try to make our contributions to make it better within the context of our lives. But one of the things I like to impress upon most people is while you're living your life, you got to live your life. You got to have fun living your life. You got to enjoy it. And I have learned how to do that. I've tried to pass that on to my kids. Get a passion, love what you do it well, and try to share and help other people learn how to do the same thing. And so that's why I feel blessed to have gone to Hotchkiss, because that particular decision in my life set me off on the right path to doing the right thing. I had to plan my work and work my plan. But what I was saying was I learned to plan my work and then work my plan. That's a life lesson that I everybody, to my kids in particular. Y'all do this. Plan your work and then work your plan. If you do that, you should be okay.
Absolutely. I like that. A man without a plan is not a man, right?
That's right.
I agree.
That's right.
I agree. All right. So anyway, we're going to wrap up. And, again, I want to thank you.
Okay.
That was Mr. Albert Scott III, architect, member of the GO Program. All right. Great opportunity program by the Hotchkiss.